Is there any merit in the statement that there are no stupid questions?
It depends how you define stupid. How you yourself, since you're the one asking the question, it depends how you yourself define the word stupid, number one. Number two, it could be that this question is insincere. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it could be. And the reason that this could be an insincere question based upon outrage is because you believe that every question should be answered and that everyone should get a turn and everyone should get equal amount of time for the question asked because there are no stupid questions. That could be what you're kind of getting at. It may not be a real question at all. It may be outrage dressed up as a question.
If 99% of humans haven't been exposed to the truth, doesn't it then follow that all of the questions from these humans will also be false?
Do you mean the questions that are received here?
I also mean here as well, yes.
Well, there's always a reason why, there's always a cosmic reason as to why something happens to intersect with someone in someone's life. And whether or not that's ever known is an entirely different story. But there is a truth of sincerity. And wherever one ends up in his life, there was a time when he wasn't there. And so there was a crossover point. There was a bridge. There was a transition. And so therefore, the truth of sincerity, or at least the possibility of it, exists within every human being. And so one could ask a question based upon false notions. But if there is genuineness and if there is sincerity in wanting to know, then that can lead to a possibility. That can lead to that individual gradually shedding the conditioning because he may not even have known that. And so if it provided a possibility for him to do that, then that falseness that he came with could eventually lead to truth.
Hello. Hi, Kapil. Is there something you can do as a parent to nudge your child towards the pursuit of truth?
The child is, especially when they're young, they're closer to truth than the parent is. So actually, it's the other way around.
Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to tell that something that pains me a lot is to see people exploiting other people in the name of caste, religion, race, sexuality, and stuff. And I want to do something about it. Like it really hurts me. I don't know if it's because of the compassion or empathy or whatever it is, but it is something that is a constant source of stress for me. And I want to do something to change that, to bring about a difference. So is there an advice that you have, or we should accept that people would be like this and there is nothing much that can be done and everyone would be like in this default state?
No, there's no should. If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. And if you wish to do something about it, you may.
Writings and my observation of people around me, I can clearly see that societies devolve and the music and the movies that are made are of lower and lower quality and just bad profanity and noise and so on. I still listen to and learn from the music from 1960s and 70s, but I don't feel like the music that is made today will be played decades from now. So my question is the sincerity of the artist the only thing that separates true art from noise?
I mean, it doesn't matter how long something's going to be around. If it's around for a long time, it's around for a long time. But that isn't really the judgment. I mean, there's no real judgment about it. If one is sincere when they produce it, they are. If they are not, then they're not. But there's no flag waving or gold medal for someone being sincere either.
Right.
If one wishes to produce art, then they produce art, and if they don't, then they don't.
Right.
Is it possible to live without any sort of value system other than just the basic physical needs that a human being needs to live?
Anything's possible. There's no impossible. Anything's possible.
Thank you.
My question is, how does one know if that want is pure or not? Can the want originate from something that is imp?
My question is, how do we handle and manage entropy in a world of complete disorder in order to reach perfection and happiness?
There's no handle. There's no how. There's no manage. There's no happiness.
Knowing something intellectually is not enough. Knowing what stands in the way of knowing something by heart, is it only experience or what else?
One of the things that stands in the way is the value that one places upon the intellect. So for the intellectual, knowing something intellectually is knowing it viscerally in his own mind. It isn't really, but because for the intellectual, the person who values the intellect greatly, then the intellect is everything. So that value that he places upon it, that helps to determine and what blockages stand in the way from knowing it viscerally.
Hello, Kapil. I run a small group of individuals here in my local hometown, and basically one of the things that they've asked me to do is have a mentorship program, and I didn't know how to go about doing this, so I called it Light Club. And the one thing that I've been trying to preach is that a lot of people are human doings. They're humans that are trying to do things. How do I do this? How do I do that? I've read all your books that you've released publicly. And one of the messages that I imbibed from it was you need to be a human being and just be. And once you become who you are at the most intrinsic level, that things happen naturally. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Things come to you naturally, and you don't have any sort of expectations, desires, goals. None, like in my life personally, friends
So
around.
What's your question?
My question is, as far as a human being versus a human doing, is that a concept or an insight that you would agree with, that you should just be instead of trying to do something? And is that one of the core messages behind a lot of your books, like direct truth and things like that?
I don't recommend being either.
Namaste, Dr. Gupta. It's an honor to speak to you. Is there such a thing as or is that just a sequence of someone's natural devotion and sincerity?
You broke up.
I was asking, is there such a thing as luck or grace in pursuit of success, or is that just a consequence of one's devotion and sincerity to that pursuit?
In practical matters, it doesn't matter, because whether there was or there wasn't, there's nothing you can do about that.
Right.
I have a hard time conceptualizing truth, and I guess this is by design because people fall into semantic traps. But I see that things like ego and ideology and kind of concepts and intellectualizing get in the way. So is coming upon truth more about the removal of what stands in the way, or is it more like gaining something in the process?
It could be either, but that's why I say truth is the devotion to truth.
Thank you.
Hello, Doc. Thanks for having me up here again. So I just want to probe an idea that I feel like is, probably the most provocative, which is the idea of DNA. Now, I mean, two practical, responses could be, well, DNA, I'll show you DNA. And the second one being, well, I'll just take my ball and go home now. So, I mean, I guess like what I'm trying to say is, am I thinking about this the right way? Like if DNA, if you have the former response where you're like, well, I'll prove something to someone, I'll change my DNA. I mean, is it supposed to elicit a response? And if it is that, some
DNA has nothing to do with anyone else. There's no comparison here. DNA is one's deep-seated sensibilities.
So does that mean you're sort of, doomed in a way if like you're just not?
You're doomed, or you're doomed, or you're awarded. But everyone sort of gets a way out or a way towards. So if someone's DNA is to be social, but at some point they see the superfluousness of that, then they also had the DNA of getting over that. But I would say that it doesn't really matter, because even the individuals who have the DNA, I mean, the influence of society and social constructs and spirituality and self-help and motivation and books and media and friendships and just the entire society, the influence of that is so powerful that it actually overrides whatever latent possibilities may be within someone, and therefore those latent things better be extraordinarily strong to overcome the brainwashing and conditioning and ruinous exposure to society.